Hi, welcome back to Crimson Glass on YouTube, and this is part 4 of writing Mad World. Aren't we done with this yet? I do not go back and rewatch any of the vlogs. I have no idea, honestly, what I said in the first 3 parts. I filmed parts 1 and 2 9 months ago at this point, and I filmed part 3 about 2 months ago, right by now. So I honestly have no idea. So I'm just going to preface that by saying that I don't waste my time going back. So if you have recently rewatched the vlogs, that's just to explain I may or may not repeat myself. The last time I gave you guys an update was about 2 months ago. It was probably early in July when I was just getting into writing for Camp NaNoWriMo. And I'm going to be honest, even if I don't rewatch it, I'm going to tell you if I filmed it before July 13th, I was probably feeling very optimistic about having it done by August 15th and that we were going to be on track for the December release. It's September. That's not true anymore. We don't need to get into what happened in July other than things came up and I wasn't able to write. And then I just had some issues. I couldn't get into the headspace for writing. I have been working on that for the last couple of weeks. And I'm happy to say that since I stopped writing in mid-July, I have now finished 3 chapters of Mad World, and we are actually 2 of those were just this week. So I am filming this on September 14th. At this point, I have finished 83 chapters. So that's 75 of those chapters are in books 1 through 3. Book 4 starts with chapter 76. That means I have finished 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. I have finished 8 chapters. That's actually pretty good. There are about 37 total for book 4. So we are about 23% of the way through the first draft. I'm feeling very good about that. Especially, I will say yesterday I had a really good writing breakthrough day. When I started writing, I thought I would just write a couple of scenes and then I headed to bed because I was getting started a little late. My cat sat in front of the keyboard and I got distracted. So, I didn't even start writing until almost 7:30. And when I sat down to finish to write that particular chapter, I already had 2 scenes done. I might have had 3 scenes already drafted from last summer's version. And I only cleaned them up and edited those a little bit. So I would say about 1,000 words of it was already kind of done, probably more like 1,500. And those are 2 scenes I do want to adjust in rewrites. I do want to come back and beef them up. But the rest of the chapter I hadn't written yet. And I wrote about 5 or 6 scenes just last night. Now they were short, they were punchy, they were just kind of like quicker scenes. I don't think any of the scenes I wrote last night were more than 1,000 words. But that's okay because we're not here for word count. We're here for chapters. We're here for scenes. I am very happy to say that we are starting to make progress. And I'm actually at the point in the story where I'm starting to feel that internal pressure is the wrong word, but it's probably the best one for right now, where I feel like I am in the story and I want to see how it unfolds. Particularly, last night's chapter was actually a really important one. It was towards the end of Act 1. I thought I would talk a little bit about what that transition between Act 1 and Act 2 is. So when I write around anchor scenes. I'm going to link Chipperish below. That's where I get my anchor scene terminology. Act 1 has 2 anchor scenes. You have your inciting incident, and that's as close to the beginning of the novel project as you can get it. That's what kicks off your central narrative conflict. And then you have your turning point at the end that kind of serves as the transition between Act 1 and Act 2. Let me talk a little bit about central narrative conflict and inciting incident, what that means. So Mad World is a really complicated story for that because there is so much going on, particularly book 4, which is the payoff for a lot of things I've been setting up all throughout the series. Book 4 is where we finally get a lot of little subplots and little hints and stuff that really kind of that unfold and reveal itself. And I'd like to think that Mad World is an even better read the second time through, because the second time you can kind of read all of the places where I did drop hints for things I plan to do later. I hope so. I hope it reads that way. It's definitely how I wrote it. But even though it has so many different things going on, each book and the series as a whole has to have something tying it together that pushes it forward. It has to have the big idea. It's the central narrative conflict. It's the thing that ties the whole thing together. So the series, of course, the central narrative conflict is basically Rick. And of course, in every single book, we have dealt with Rick. Book 1 was the panic room, the big thing with Rick. Book 2 was kind of a little bit of a down period while we moved around the pieces, and Rick kind of sat in the background a little bit while we let Carly and Elizabeth deal with the trauma of what had happened. And book 3, Rick is still in the background, but he has escaped, and now he's affecting things again. So I'd say book 1 was a very in-your-face Rick part of the drama. Rick was in it. He was doing things. And books 2 and 3 were definitely emotional conflicts, the emotional effects of what Rick had done in book 1 and his escape in books 2 and 3. So that's kind of what that is. And then book 4 is, of course, finishing up the Rick storyline, finally dealing with him and getting some closure for Carly and Elizabeth, and of course for Sonny and Jason, because they deserve it too. That's the central narrative conflict of my series. And then each book has had its own individual conflict that gives its momentum. Book 1 was just the panic room. We kidnapped Carly, we rescued Carly, and then we dealt with the immediate after effect, which was Carly and Elizabeth's health, because we were also dealing with the Elizabeth drugging storyline. Book 2 was the serial rapist. And then book 3, that one was a little harder because it was never meant to be a book, but it needed to be. And it was the aftermath of the rapist. It was Elizabeth kind of fighting back from that and the aftermath of Rick's escape. So book 3 was a harder one to tie together narratively. And I decided to make that one more about Jason and Elizabeth's relationship. I think that that's probably the best book for the relationship. At least personally for me, I feel like we got the most kind of downtime and just the enjoyment of watching them as a couple. I think that was kind of, so we started with them really strong, and they were strong throughout. I don't think that they had a lot of conflict throughout. That was kind of nice to see that. And just the way that they were developing teamwork, how they were developing as a couple. So that was definitely the through line for that. And of course, the serial rapist case continued and the Rick stuff was in the background. But we were definitely following Elizabeth and I guess Carly as well. So this was more of a character book. It needed to happen so that I could set up things I wanted in book 4. The fact that it doesn't have that clear plot line, I can't really point to something other than Elizabeth and Carly deal with Rick's escape, which I guess would be the narrative plot line. It's because I hadn't really intended it for it to be its own book. It was supposed to be book 4, and then it just got too long. If I had not cut it, it would have been by itself 60-some chapters, and that's just too long for one book, especially when I had so many things going on. We had the Esposito hearing, we had the drama with Carly and Sonny, and then we were going to have the wedding, and then we were going to have the baby stuff we're going to have in book 4, and then we're going to have the second half of the Rick stuff. So it just felt like it was too much for one book, and I just wanted to give us a break. That's why book 3 feels maybe not as cohesive in the sense that we had an action plot. But I guess the hearing does a pretty good job, because I think we do clear up the hearing with only a couple of chapters left, and then the health thing. So I think that, you guys will have to let me know what you think. Book 4's central narrative conflict is dealing with Rick. It is. Rick has to be dealt with. So the inciting incident has to be Rick. And your inciting incident is the protagonist becomes aware of a problem. And that's hard because we've been aware of Rick for the whole time. So one of the things I had to decide was just really, who is my protagonist of book 4? What is the problem? What is the narrative thing that's going to go through? And then therefore, what is my turning point that's going to turn from act 1 to act 2? And so in a lot of ways, I think that Jason is more of the protagonist of book 4. Jason and Elizabeth are definitely the leads of the whole series, but some books have been more Elizabeth and some books have been more Jason. I'd say this one is more, I want to hope that this book is more his, because I think he needs more time on center stage. But it's also Carly's book, and it's also a little bit Sonny's book, and it's also going to be Dante's book. One of the things that's really surprised me is that a decision I made kind of offhand back when I was writing book 1 was I wanted Lucky to have a group of people around him. I thought, I knew that I wanted Cruz to be the other guy. I wanted him to have a rookie he could talk to. And I wanted to build out the PCPD. Because one of the reasons why I wrote book 1 is because book 2 as an idea was in my head. And as I was writing book 2 the year before, I realized that I didn't have a strong sense of what I wanted the PCPD to be. And I thought if I made the department more of a character on the page, if I made it more of an institution, it was going to be a better book. It was going to be more interesting, which means I had to flesh it out. And there aren't a lot of supporting characters. So basically, Mad World pulls together pretty much all of the basic supporting characters we've had over the years. I pulled back in Taggart, who had actually left the show right around the time that the Panic Room kicked off. I think Rial Andrews left early June 2003, so about 2 weeks before the story actually starts. But he didn't leave, he just disappeared, and then Gia was like, hey, my brother left for Oregon or Portland. So I just kept him around. Chipperish was definitely on the show by that point. I can't remember now if he had already joined or if we just saw him that July when he took Elizabeth's statement. Lucky was joining the station. I gave him a different reason, of course, but I wanted Lucky to have more people. I wanted to have him have a world. So I knew I was going to pull in Cruz, because Cruz was a detective who worked with Lucky in 2006. So I thought he'll just be a rookie in 2003. And then I was trying to decide who would be the third member of that trio. And I think I even put it out on Twitter. Like, before I put this up, I'll see if I can find that old tweet. Like, should it be? And I thought, well, could it be Dante? It could be Jesse. It could be a new character. It could be Nathan. I don't think it was going to be Nathan. Like, I don't remember who else. And then it became very clear that, it should be Dante. And I thought, okay, so I put Dante in there. And I'm not sure I would plan to do very much with him. But then once he was on the page, I had to decide, well, am I going to deal with that Jason, like the Sonny stuff? I made Dante Vinny's cousin, which, when you make him the cousin of the rapist of book 2, spoiler alert, very sorry, it gives him more to do. So then we had to deal with that aftermath. And then I had to decide what I was going to do if I was going to do anything with him romantically. And then he just started talking to Lulu. And I've been really happy and surprised by how much I've enjoyed writing Dante and Lulu, which I was not anticipating. When I wrote book 2 and I had Dylan and Georgie break up over the Mac stuff, which I felt was a really good thing. And then I just, as a throwaway, put Dylan and Lulu together. I was like not planning to do anything else with them. But then as I started planning Dante's story, it just made sense for Lulu to be part of it. So I think that's been really fun. Jason is aware of the problem. And for a long time, the problem was going to be Rick. And it still is. But Rick is going to be symptomatic of the other deeper problems that's been going on, especially building up in book 3. And so Jason, as the protagonist in Act 1, in the early scene, realizes he has a problem on his hand. And at the end, in chapter 84, which is a chapter I'm going to start today or tomorrow, I'm not sure, I'm really tired. I've written 2 chapters in the last 2 days. I might take tonight off to make sure I eat dinner. Jason's going to have to make a decision. He's going to have to choose to engage. And that's what that first turning point is, because stories are about choices. Characters grow from choices. You confront a character with a choice, with a decision to make, and then depending on what they do, that's what reveals characters. So when you have a character decide to keep a secret, it's not bad to keep secrets, but why are they keeping this particular secret? Who are they keeping it from? Do they tell somebody? How they decide to do that tells you something about who that character is. And when you don't have characters make choices and they just do things because the plot dictates it, that gets really boring. And I think it's really fun to have stories where characters are impulsive. Lulu is going to do a thing that probably is going to drive everybody crazy when she does it, but I think it was really fun to write, and it was fun to write that fallout. And it gave me an extra layer that I would love to talk about later after spoilers. I try really hard not to do spoilers. I might add something later to give you some. I don't know. We'll find something out. But basically, this vlog is just reporting in that Act 1 is almost done. I'm very happy with it. Act 1 was a lot of setup and moving things and people around where they needed to be. And I'm very happy to say that I feel good about it. The fact that I did not finish Mad World in July and August like I had planned had nothing to do with the story. Of course, I had a really rough summer and I was not in the headspace to write as much as I would have liked to, particularly for this story where I needed to be. I didn't want it to feel forced, and there were definitely days early in July where it felt like I was forcing it. I don't feel that way anymore. There's actually some stuff I wrote yesterday that I was not planning to do, and now I have to look at today's chapter to see what kind of adjustments. Nothing major, just like I set up a couple of things, and now I kind of have to make sure that it falls out pretty well. But it's nice to get a happy vlog, because sometimes I feel like I've done these vlogs and it's just like everything is terrible and I hate my life. Okay, so that's Mad World Part 4. I will check in with you guys in a couple of weeks. The plan I wrote in my Sight and Story status where I wanted to be for Mad World was I was really hoping to be close to chapter 90 by the end of this week. I'm sorry, by the end of this month. I have about 2 weeks left, and I have about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have about 6 or 7 chapters left to get there. I may not quite make that goal, but I also said as long as I was from 86 to 90, I'd feel okay. I think we're going to be in that 86 to 90 arc. Now, I could have a couple of really good days. One of the things that's hard is I went back to work last week and I was ready content-wise. Like, I have not had a single day where I've like, what am I going to do tomorrow? Do I have my copies? Is my boards? Like, I don't have any of that. It's just getting my body right back to the physical grind. I don't do 15,000 steps a day during the summer. And during the school year, I am on my feet pretty much from 7:30 until 3. So it's hard. I got to get my body back and ready for that. And it's just like a mental, like you just have to readjust to the status quo. So it's taking a little bit longer. Last week, I was practically dead when I came home at the end of the day. But like I said, it makes all the difference to not have to worry about what the lessons are. That was a big problem last year, is that I didn't have a lesson plan ready because I was just starting the job. That's not an issue this year. So now it's just the physical and just getting back into like the mindset and getting back into basically teaching shape. We relaxed too much a little bit this summer. I will try to do another one of these at the end of the month to check in and see if we reached our goal. I might also just do another one of these when I reach an anchor point. Like I think the fact that I was just about ready to write Act 1 was a good one. And if you are a Patreon, I am making a spoiled basically version of this where I talk more about Act 1 in general. Like I give you more information than I've actually given here. So I will link the Patreon. The videos that I make for Patreon are always available to the $1, like the basic level. So it's a really easy access. I make way too many videos. It's a problem. And there is a Patreon playlist somewhere that I have linked on the Patreon. So it's all going to be linked below. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.